There were a lot of plagues in the history of Europe, such as the Plague of Justinian, the Great Plague of London, and of course, the infamous Black Death, which not only wiped out 1/3 to half of Europe's population, but also inspired a lot of goth fashion today. But none of them sound as fun as the Dancing Plague. The Dancing Plague of 1518, or Dance Epidemic of 1518, was a case of dancing mania that occurred in Strasbourg, Alsace, modern-day France, from July 1518 to September 1518. Somewhere between 50 to 400 people took to dancing for weeks. There are many theories behind the phenomenon, the most popular being stress-induced mass hysteria. Other theories include ergot poisoning. There is a controversy concerning the number of deaths. And yeah, dance-related death is a thing in European history, as this is not the only recorded incident. The outbreak began in July 1518 when a woman known as Frau Trophia and her daughter, Fräulein Emma Gotz, began to dance fervently and uncontrollably in a street in Strasbourg. Frau Trophia had started dancing on July 14th on the narrow cobbled street outside her half-timbered home. Trophia kept up the constant dancing for a week, only stopping to sleep, after which she continued. Soon, 36 others joined in. By August, the dancing plague afflicted between 50 and 400 people. Dancers were beginning to collapse. The victims' movements were described as spasmodic, with many convulsions, and their bodies were left drenched in sweat. Their arms would trash violently, and some noted that their eyes were vacant and expressionless. Blood would pool into their swollen feet, and they would eventually bleed into their shoes. Ew. Often, there would also be cries for help from the affected. If the victims did not succumb to a heart attack, they would collapse from extreme exhaustion, hunger, and thirst. Physicians rejected supernatural explanations and instead related the phenomenon to hot blood, a theory based on medicine at the time that suggested an excess of heat in the body caused uncontrolled movement and behavior. You need to keep in mind that medication back then mostly involved leeches, so I think medicine was a bit different. Historians disagree over whether and how many deaths occurred, though some claim there were as many as 15 deaths per day during the outbreak's peak. It lasted for such a long time that it even attracted the attention of the authorities, until the council gave up authority to the physicians, who prescribed the afflicted to, quote, dance themselves free of it. Could you imagine how that conversation went? Like someone with a dancing mania comes to the doctor and like, Doctor, I can't stop dancing, what do I do? And then the doctor is just like, don't stop till you drop. And they took that literally because there are claims that guild halls were refurbished to accommodate the dancing, as well as musicians and strong people to help keep those dealing with the dancing mania to stay upright. Okay, so maybe it's not don't stop till you drop, but more of a don't stop till you drop, and the strongman that we hired keeps you upright so you get to keep going again until you both drop. This backfired. Oh really? And the council was forced to ban public dancing as people dance in fear it was a punishment from Saint Vitus. For context, Saint Vitus is the patron saint of actors, dancers, and those with epilepsy. And to be free of sin, many joined in on the dancing epidemic. When divine punishment or demonic possession initiated and sustained frenzied dancing, only those with divinely bestowed authority could restore the sinners to wholeness and to a right relationship with the divine. The council went as far as to ban music as well. Those who danced were then ordered to go to the shrine of Saint Vitus, who was believed to punish sinners by compelling them to dance uncontrollably. According to contemporary accounts, they wore red shoes, probably from all the bleeding from all the dancing, that had been sprinkled with holy water and had painted crosses on the tops and soles. They also had to hold small crosses in their hands and incense and Latin incantations incantations were part of this ritual. Word soon spread that participants had been forgiven by Vitus, suggesting the ritual's success. The dancing plague ultimately ceased in September when the remaining dancers were led to a mountaintop chapel to pray for absolution. Right, so to conclude, some lady started dancing, probably because she was stressed or probably out of ergot poisoning. Her daughter started dancing, husband started dancing, the entire village started dancing. The government and the doctor said you should keep dancing until they decided it's time to stop dancing. So they started praying and then they stopped dancing. Good stuff. You know that dog that looks like it has cartoonish, bulging frog eyes on a nose that kind of looks like it crashed into the wall face first right after it was born? The one that looks and sounds like it has trouble breathing. That is called a pug. In the 1700s Europe, there used to be an order dedicated to that alien-looking dog called the Order of the Pug. The Order of the Pug was a paramasonic society founded by Roman Catholics. Paramasonic as in the Freemasons, and the Freemasons as in the subject of many conspiracy theories today. It is believed that it was founded in 1738. By Clemens August of Bavaria to bypass the crowns in Eminenti Apostolatus of 1738. The constitution of the Order of the Pug allowed women to become members as long as they were Catholic. The pug was chosen as a symbol of loyalty, trustworthiness, and steadiness. No reliable information had been handed down about the origins of the Pug Order. It is believed to have been founded in France around 1740, from whence it spread to the Netherlands and Germany, where a lodge is said to have existed in Beirut. Members called themselves mobs, which is German for pug. Each lodge had a female and a male lodge master who called themselves grand pugs and took turns running the lodge every 6 months. Other functions such as secretaries and overseers were also androgynously filled. However, the lodge grandmaster was always male. While German sources state that the order was short-lived, they were reportedly active in Lyon as late as 1902. What if the Illuminati that we know of today is actually the Order of the Pug? And just like any other good secret order, of course, they also had initiation rituals. Novices were initiated wearing a dog collar and had to scratch at the door to be admitted inside. The novices were blindfolded and led 9 times around a carpet with symbols on it, while the pugs of the order barked loudly to test the steadiness of the newcomers. Now, I'm not quite sure if pugs of the order refers to actual pugs that are barking, or if it's referring to the members that calls themselves pugs and act like furries, barking at another person. The novices also had to kiss a porcelain pug's backside under its tail as an expression of devotion to the order. And aside from that, the initiates need to hold some mirrors and sabers and also state their vows. You know, the usual standard cult initiation stuff, nothing special really. But kissing the pug's backside, to be precise, right underneath the tail, which means essentially they're kissing the porcelain pug's butthole, makes me wonder if there were any aspiring initiates out there that changed their mind right after they heard the requirements, but not before they said, "What the pug?" That joke's pretty dumb, but like and sub. The city of Nottingham is famous for many things, such as Sherwood Forest, where Robin Hood used to hang out, and also the invention of ibuprofen.
You mean what?
But in the 1700s, it was also famous for a riot called the Nottingham Cheese Riot. The Nottingham Cheese Riot, also known as the Great Cheese Riot, started on the 2nd of October 1766 at the city's annual Goose Fair, coming at a time of food shortages and rising foodstuff prices in England. To summarize the background, basically in 1766 there was a poor harvest and people were worried of food shortages. In that year fair, which happened on the 2nd of October, there was an abnormally large quantity of cheese for sale at inflated prices because the merchants were worried about keeping foodstuff in the local area because there were instances of merchants being overpowered and forced to sell the goods at pre-shortage rates. They were worried that they were going to lose money, so they were trying to dump their products at crazy prices. A riot broke out on the same day after several Lincolnshire merchants purchased a large quantity of cheese with the intention of selling it in their county. They were subsequently surrounded by a group of, quote, rude lads who demanded the merchants not take away the cheese and instead share it out in Nottingham. And I'm assuming they're demanding them to do that for free, which of course the merchants don't want because they're after profit, right? Violence eventually broke out over the dispute, and rioters proceeded to loot a large quantity of cheese throughout Nottingham. Shop windows were broken and hundreds of cheese wheels were thrown and rolled down the streets, including in, get this, Wheelergate and Peck Lane. I have to point out how funny that is to me. Hundreds of people wheeling cheese wheels in a street called Wheelergate. And that's not even the best part, because the mayor of Nottingham, Roby Swan, attempted to disrupt the riot and restore order, but was knocked over by a rolling cheese wheel. That is straight out of a cartoon. But then things starts to get serious because some locals armed themselves and set up roadblocks on the city streets to prevent merchants from carrying away cheeses. A cargo boat near Trent Bridge was seized and all cheese held on board was looted, despite its owner offering to pay the crowd or to sell his wares at a low cost. I think by that point it's already too late, because the crowd already demanded blood, and by blood I mean cheese. One warehouse was attacked, and although its defenders eventually drove the crowd off with firearms, some of the cheese stored within was looted as well. The warehouse's owner organized a mounted posse to track down the cheese, which had been taken to Castle Donington. The local magistrate refused to sign search warrants for houses in the village. Can you imagine that? What are they going to do? Like search and confiscate cheeses? Like FBI open up, do you have any cheese? In response, the posse detained several local residents on suspicion of rioting and beat them at the gates of the magistrate's house, demanding justice. The posse was eventually driven away by a mob of women and children throwing stones, the cheese having been lost. And then the government, probably realizing whatever they're doing is not working, requested military support to help restore order. The city at the time was a garrison town, and the British Army's 1st Regiment of Light Dragoons, along with infantry and cavalry of the Nottinghamshire militia, were deployed to suppress the riots. Troops fired into the rioting crowds, injuring several and killing one William Eggleston of Car Colston, who happened to be standing near a pile of cheese. That last bit of detail was important because it turns out Eggleston was a farmer, and it appears he was killed while protecting his own wares. That pile of cheese was actually his, having been mistaken for a looter. Now, as a person that likes cheese pizza every now and then, I have nothing but the highest respect for William Eggleston. He died protecting what he loved: cheese. Violence continued, or should I say, cheese-related violence, continued in Nottingham for several days until the military restored order. For a while, wagons carrying cheese were formed into convoys and provided with an armed escort. And in 2016, they celebrated the 250th anniversary of the Nottingham Cheese Riot. I'm sure with hope to once and for all end cheese-related violence.